Filming this one live on the banks of the beautiful Neversink River in Claryville, New York. That's in the Catskill region, because I'm attending a workshop at Neversink Farm. It's hosted by farmer Conor Crickmore and his wife Kate. And Conor's story is amazing in terms of what he's doing at Neversink Farm. They're doing about $350,000 gross on a small-scale vegetable operation, farming just 1 acre. Now, what makes them successful? One of the things which makes them really successful are their systems, and that's what I want to talk about today, because that's one of the big takeaways from that workshop with Conor. If I could sum up Conor's systems in one simple sentence, it would be simple systems, but complete systems. He has employees, he has workers under him. So he's created systems that are replicable, duplicable, that people can do, and they're complete, but they're not so complex that people miss steps, people forget to do things, and people don't understand them. He's simplified all of these systems down in a way the average person can pick up a notebook or a clipboard like this and look at that sheet and say, number one, what do I have to do, and do that. Now, doing that, making something simple, might mean sacrificing a little bit on results. And in his view, I think he thinks that's okay, I do as well. There's no sense in designing a perfect system that'll get you, say, 100% out of 100% of results if it's so complex that nobody can follow it or you can't replicate it every time. It's better to go to a simpler system where, say, you get 90% out of 100% of results. Then you can actually replicate that and do that over time, so you give up on time spent, effort spent, quality potentially of finished product. You back off on that a little bit to make the system easier and more manageable, not just for you, but for people under you or for anybody you hand the task off to. He also starts out with all of his systems not complete. He goes in knowing that the systems aren't perfect at the beginning, so he writes down all of his procedures on a single 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. He laminates them so he can then write over them in Sharpie, so the next time that sheet's printed, he incorporates the Sharpie changes in to that sheet over time, and then laminates it, and eventually you end up with a system that evolves and is perfected over time. But he doesn't set out to make that perfect system on day one. He iterates it over time, and eventually moves closer and closer to perfect for him in his context. He tries to make sure each system is a complete loop, it's a complete system. That means dealing with the things that come at the beginning of the project through things that come all the way at the end. Like, you have to get these tools to start, and when you're done, you have to make sure you put the tools back, or sharpen them, or refueled a fueled engine, or refueled something if you're using an engine, or refilled fertilizer if you're using some fertilizer. You want to make sure that that process is complete, so the next person that comes along, or so the next time that process has to be repeated, it's always starting from the exact same point. If you forget to do some of these little back-end things on the end, like putting stuff away, sharpening things, then your procedure's incomplete, because the next time somebody comes along, they're going to come and find a half-filled jar of fertilizer or a knife that's not sharp, and they're going to have to waste time sharpening it. Always put that stuff at the end to make sure your system is a complete system. One thing a lot of those systems have also involved is sacrifice. That means getting rid of some optionality in different things. One example of this is his seeding trays. He seeds everything with either the paper pot transplanter or 72-cell wind strip trays. Now, they make 128s, they make 256, they make 50s, they make all different size wind strip cell trays. He's gone with just 72s to simplify everything. That means there's no questioning. Peppers aren't different than tomatoes, which aren't different than lettuce, which aren't different than cucumbers. Everything is the same size. It keeps it standardized, it keeps it easy. Might you give up on results for some of those crops by standardizing? Yeah, but does it also make things a lot easier? Totally, and you only have to buy one size product. If it ever breaks, you have a bunch of them on hand, you don't have all these different sizes, and you don't avoid all sorts of confusion. Another example of that is he's created a mister for after he seeds flats. He just simply puts all the flats after they've been seeded under this misting device, hits a timer, and waters each flat for the exact same amount of time. And this is something I've played around with a lot on my videos, trying to experiment on how to hydrate flats. And one thing that's difficult to convey is how wet is wet? How much water do you put on? It really depends on the flow rate and the nozzle that you have. Well, if you have a standardized system that just puts out a certain amount of mist and it runs for a certain amount of time, each of those trays are getting the exact same amount of water. So just another example of how he deals with systemizing tasks on the farm. Overall, systems are a big part of what makes Conor Crickmore and his wife Kate at Neversink Farm an absolute success. Doing $350,000 gross on an acre is pretty amazing in the small scale space. That's right at the top percentage of what people are doing out there. If you want to learn more about Conor, check out neversinkfarm.com, or I've done 2 podcasts on Farm Small, Farm Smart with Conor, 2 back-to-back episodes where he talks about a lot of systems like I talked about here today. I'll put a link to those below. So systems, simple but complete. One of the big takeaways from Neversink Farm on the Neversink River here in the Catskills of New York. Thanks for watching this one. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.